Together with you, I'm gonna edit some photos of my last POV photography video. I will provide you with the free raw files that you can download and follow along for some hidden tips and tricks. I recommend watching the whole thing or listen to it in your sleep, so you will learn something subconsciously and wake up with more knowledge. Or just help a small content creator out with some watch time here on YouTube. Let's stop talking and start editing. So we are in Lightroom right now, and these are all of my 14 images that I'm gonna edit today. And of course you can download them for free, the first link in the description. And if you're asking yourself why there's a black border in every single frame, it's because I'm using APS-C lenses on my full frame sensor. I could use the crop mode on my Sony a7 III, so I'm gonna get rid of the black boxes before taking the photo, but I'm not doing it because either way I'm gonna crop my images. The first shot we're gonna edit today is the seagull. I'm always going through my presets, but for the first one I'm not using one. So let's crop it. I want it to be 1:1, why not? If you want a different look on your crop tool, you can press O on your keyboard. There's a golden ratio, other aspect ratios here. I tend to use this one here or the one I just used, this one. If you don't know me by now, I love to edit my photos in black and white and then introduce some colors after the edit. So I'm going to the color mixer and desaturate every color. And now I'm going to my masking tool here. I want to mask out the seagull with the object mask. Doing a pretty good job. I'm gonna invert it. And because I know I'm using this mask a second time, I'm going to it, right click on it and duplicate it. I'm going to add some depth in the background, which is also something that I really love in my images. So right click on it, intersect this mask with a linear gradient. To add some cool contrast, you can always think of it like white, black, white, black. So I'm looking at my subject. The sun is hitting from the left side because the left side of the seagull's face is lit. So that means I'm gonna lower the exposure on the left side, down the exposure. And on my second mask is the complete opposite, because on the right side on the seagull it's pretty dark. That means I'm right clicking on the mask, intersected with a linear gradient. Or let's say I totally forgot to do this mask, I'm deleting it again. And I can use the first mask here, just duplicate it. But then I have to go to the linear gradient and double click on the exposure so it resets everything. And now I'm just grabbing the linear gradient. So I'm upping the exposure, but I like it a bit more, let's say, foggy, misty. That means I'm gonna down the dehaze here, if that's even a term, and down the clarity a bit, down the contrast to make it more hazy, and up the exposure. I'm always looking at my histogram while doing the exposure and all that. So now onto the subject, plus object mask. Now that I have my subject, I'm closing the masking tools here, because now I'm introducing some colors. Yeah, looks quite good. I know the seagull has an orange yellowish beak, so is it peak or beak? I don't know. So that means I'm introducing some yellows. Wait, I'm zooming in on it. Orange, yeah, it was orange and red. Okay, I'm gonna leave it like that because I'm gonna brush over it and make it more orangey so it pops out more. Desaturating blue a bit more. And now I'm going to my bird that I've just masked out. Up the texture and the clarity. And because it's quite dark here, I'm upping my whites. And looking at the histogram, something is clipping, I can see it. Yeah, it's the bird. So I'm going back a bit, nothing is clipping. Okay, maybe a few things are clipping, but that's okay. Personal preference, as always. And now for the beak or peak, I'm grabbing my brush, zooming in a bit, brushing over it, introducing some warm temp, like that. Perfect. And I don't like the hues of the blues, so that means I'm going to the color mixer. I'm here already, hues of the blues, and going more towards a tealish blue, introducing a bit more. I could fine tune this image, but let's see the before and after. And you see what I've created, black, white, and it goes from black again to white. That's a cool contrast. On to the next image. Oh, this one is crooked, but it's okay. I only want to use this frame here. So I'm cropping it 16:9. I love this ratio here, a bit filmic. So instead of rotating the image with the mouse, I'm using the ruler here and look for a straight line. There are a bunch of them. I'm clicking and holding, and now I'm letting go. And it straightened the image, and now I can just crop it. And now I'm desaturating it, or I'm just gonna look at my presets. If something, okay, filmic blues, I already know. Yeah, filmic blues. Boom. It's a bit dark. It's okay, I'm going to the tone curve. I don't want the blacks to be that faded, so I'm grabbing this point here, lower it a bit, and introduce more contrast by lowering the shadow point here. I'm leaving the midtones here. I'm upping the highlights, and now I'm going to the color mixer, desaturating everything, introducing some yellows back and orange. And I want it to be more on the orange side, so I'm going to the hues, play with the yellow and the orange, like so. And now I'm grabbing a mask, oh, no sky mask, cancel. I'm grabbing a, no, not radial gradient, what the frick? I'm grabbing a linear gradient, boom, okay. Another linear gradient, because it should be bright here, so I'm upping my whites and my highlights just a tiny bit. And now I want to focus on the lamps here, so I'm using the object mask. It should do a great job. And another one, object mask. I don't even want the handle, but it's okay. So now I'm upping my highlight, my shadows, my exposure, my whites, boom. And on this one as well, I'm making it more silvery blue, desaturating it as well. Before and after. That's dope. Okay, on to the next one. I love this one, statue. If you know what that means, quiz ou deux, comment down below, I don't know. Okay, let's crop it 4x5, or let's say 16x9, Instagram story. Go full ham on the crop. And now, desaturating everything. But it could come in handy if I'm not doing it on the blues, because I want the background. I could use the sky mask here. Let's see what Lightroom does, okay? I'm just masking the sky out, I'm waiting. So if you can see, because I think it's reflecting, the sky is reflecting, that means, yeah, it wants to mask out the legs, the dragon, whatever. I'm just gonna try a different method. I'm deleting the mask, and I'm using a color range mask. So I'm grabbing this portion here. Does the same, but because the color range, I can refine it. So I'm going to the refine, pull it to the left, and as you can see, the reflection is gone. And everything else here we selected. So now I'm gonna right click on it, intersect it with a linear gradient. And the sun is coming from the left side, leftish side. Let's say the sun would be on the straight left side, okay? So because of my contrast that I like, I'm not upping the exposure. I could, because the sun should be here, but I love to edit my images quite a bunch. I'm lowering the exposure on the left side here, make it really dark. And on the other side, I'm just duplicating this mask here, going to the linear gradient. I'm double tapping exposure to reset it. Grab this mask, place it on the opposite side, down the contrast, down the dehaze, and a bit of the clarity, and up my exposure. Quite a bunch, because look, we were at the midtones, it's like underexposed. So I'm gonna pumping up the exposure, boom. I'm pulling out some blues here now, playing with the hue, more to the teal. And now, why teal? Because teal and orange, because I know the statue was golden. So I'm introducing back some oranges, and now the image comes to life, comes alive, I don't know. I want it to be more orangey. Yellows to the orange side. I'm playing with the crop again, lowering the blues a bit more. I'm gonna saturate the yellows a bit more to make it more golden. Before and after. I mean, you could even use this image, but I love my edit. Okay, next image. I'm gonna go through my presets here again for a starting point. I'm gonna use my icy cyan here. Grab it 4x5. You know what? I want a 16x9 because I only want the needles, just like a detailed shot, you know? Playing with the exposure and the temp. Yeah, I want to introduce more orange in the background. And I'm going to my mask, linear gradient. The sun is coming from the top. I'm hazing it. Clarity down, contrast down, up the exposure a bit. My brain gets so chaotic every time I'm editing my images. It's not because I don't have a clue what to edit, it's just because I want to edit everything. And of course I can do that because these are my images, okay? Personal preference, of course. If you say you don't like the images that I'm editing, hey, no problem. I'm not mad at you, it's okay. I'm gonna leave my greens where they are, grabbing another linear gradient to create some depth. Pulling my exposure down, before and after. Okay, next image, it is a magpie, ping pie. In German we say Elster. It was so far away even though I used a 210mm, so I'm gonna crop it a bunch, 4x5. I'm rotating a bit more to let it fly a bit more upwards. Yeah, I still have some details, it's okay. Sony a7 III does a pretty good job with the megapixels. Not that much, of course, I know, for nowadays standards, but it's doing the job. So, what do I do? Tricky question, of course, desaturating everything. Okay, what do I do now? Masks, of course. Using an object mask. Boom, brushing over it. Will it do a great job? Nope. Why not, huh? Let's do some Picasso shit, come on. Let's brush it in, why not? I have time, it's okay. I know I'm only getting older, but who cares? Who wants to get old? I don't know. Why am I talking about age? Come on, let's edit. Right click on it, duplicate and invert this mask, so I only have the sky. And I see some red dots here, so I'm gonna subtract it with a brush, of course, on the beak or peak. Correct me if I'm wrong. I like to learn some stuff from y'all. So, right click on it, intersect this mask, linear gradient. Why am I zoomed in? I don't know, zooming out. Sun is coming from where? I don't know, but that's cool. I can create my own look. The bird should fly into the night sky or into the sun. I think night sky is cool because if it would fly into the sun, it would burn. So we don't want the bird to burn. Lowering the exposure. Right clicking on it, duplicating this mask, going to the linear gradient, double tapping the exposure, you know the deal. Grabbing the linear gradient, putting it on the opposite side, downing the contrast. I'm not gonna say dehazing it because it's called hazing it, so I'm hazing it, okay. Boom. Let's introduce some blues. I like this blue color, but I like it a bit more tealish. Let's use the first mask that we've created. I'm gonna upping the shadows here to get out more details. Up the clarity just a tiny bit and the whites. There are some blue colors in the feathers. Let's see if I can fix that by pulling my temp to the warmer side of things. But I kinda like the bluish tones on the feathers. It's so silvery. Wait, desaturating it a bit? Yes sir, ski, but just a tiny bit. My mask wasn't that good, I know, but it's okay, okay? Just for the sake of this tutorial or follow along, it should do the job. You can fine tune everything. I see a bit more blues in the brighter part here, and for that I can just grab another linear gradient and desaturating the corner. Boom, just a tiny bit. Before and after. Is there some details? Wait, I want to go back to the bird. I'm zooming in. I want to go back to the bird because I want to look if I can pull out more details. Wow. Oh, it's gonna be so noisy. I'm gonna leave it like that. It's okay, yeah? A bit more blues. I know, I'm not even using this image. I'm just doing it for the sake of this tutorial. But my mind is like, I need more blues. So I'm just gonna introduce more blues. Okay, this one is crooked as well. It's okay, I'm fixing it in post. 16:9, rotating it a bit. I'm using the ruler. Horizon line is here. I was already there. Okay, classic blues, dream softly. Okay, I think dream softly. You know, in my Whoa, if I pull out some more greens, that could be dope as well. But I'm gonna go with Dream Softly. And I don't know, in your eyes, it looks shit, okay? It's okay. In my eyes, I'm honest, it looks shit. But I know what I can do with the images after I've clicked on one of my presets, okay? You have to know how to introduce some colors to get more contrast out, because presets are just a base point, okay? You're just spawning on this earth on a base, and now you have to figure things out, okay? That's how I'm seeing it. I'm figuring things out with you right now. I'm gonna up the exposure just a tiny bit. I don't like the blues here. And for me to say I don't like the blues here, hey, I'm desaturating everything. Let's just look what I'm doing here, okay? So the base of the preset is, of course, the hues and everything that I've created here, as you can see. But the most important thing here is the tone curve. The tone curve handles everything here, as you can see. That's the tone curve of the preset, because tone curves and boss, for real. I'm fading it out a bit more and getting some more contrast in. Midtones are too low. As you can see, now I'm pulling it up a bit, and the highlights up. I don't even have to use the highlight point that much, because I'm gonna use some radial mask to introduce some dreamy kind of glowy. You can watch the YouTube video upper right corner to create a dreamy look. I'm gonna create some glowy points here with radial masks. I'm downing the contrast, the dehaze a bunch, the clarity a bit, and up the exposure. Now, since I've created one glowy point, I can right click on the mask, duplicate it, and use it for every single other one. I'm holding down Shift so it stays as a perfect circle here. I could use a linear gradient to make this part of the image a bit more darker, to emphasize the focus on the brightest part, which is here. But I'm gonna use the radial gradient for that. So I'm focusing on the brightest part here. Boom. Lowering the exposure and then hit invert. Bam. And now introduce the oranges, double tap on it, the yellows, double tap on it, the reds and the greens. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the hues of the greens and I'm pulling it towards the yellows. And for the yellows, I'm pulling it more towards the oranges. For the orange, the same thing, but I'm overdoing it a bit more, so I have some reds here. The reds I'm gonna leave, and now I'm playing with the exposure a bit. Now I want some blues back, okay? So instead of introducing some blues with this slider here, I don't want the blue sky to be visible. I only want some blue shadows. I could do it with the tone curve here. Go to the blues, for example, and up the black points, as you can see. But now it's a bit more purple, so I have to go to the reds, decrease the reds, and now it gets a bit more bluish. But it affects the whole image and I don't want that. So I'm gonna redo it. And now I'm gonna use the radial gradient that I've used to create the focus. Duplicating it. I reset everything and now I'm gonna use this color tool here. I'm gonna pick a color that I like. And now I'm gonna right click on it, intersect it with a brush and just brush where I want the blues to be visible. For example, here. Up the highlights a bit. And down the saturation a bit. Before and after. Bro, this image is so dark, but I love it. On to the next one. This image here is a symmetry shot. Haha, pun intended. I'm gonna show you a cool tool in Lightroom here so you don't have to use Photoshop. Alright? So let's go through my presets here real quick. Oh, Icy Cyan. Yeah, I've used this one on my Instagram post. Playing with the exposure a bit and grabbing a linear gradient. This one is gonna be fast, I know. Up the exposure, another linear gradient, lowering the exposure. Now click on the remove tool here and here it says generative AI. So I'm gonna brush over these human beings here and let Instagram do the job. Hit apply. Now there should be no one here. You can switch through three variations. Yeah, the third one is cool. Okay. And now let's say we're gonna walk towards the light, okay? Bro, this one looks so artisty, I know. It's from another dimension, parallel universe, okay? Down the contrast, the dehaze all the way, the clarity, the saturation, and up the exposure. Play with the temp and saturation, the clarity, and the texture. Okay, now before and after. It looks so unreal, I know, but I love it. It's such a cool Instagram story, man. Write something here, make a poll. Do you like it? Yes, no. Do you like donuts? Of course I love donuts. Wait, I need to grab me a donut right now. I just want to make the oranges a bit more poppy. Orange, make it more towards the reddish side. Boom, okay, perfect. Loving it, mate. I'm gonna use some linear gradients. Let's go. Okay, crop it 4x5 Instagram post because it's gonna be a banger. I'm gonna leave the fence out, or I don't know what it's called in English, my bad. I'm gonna use a different layout here, pressing O. I need a straight line. There it is. Okay, let's say here. Desaturating everything. I'm not gonna use a preset for this one. I'm just gonna hit sky mask. What is it doing? I think I have to use the object mask. Yeah, I have to. I don't know why Lightroom thinks the sky belongs to the object or subject. Maybe because of the reflection, I don't know. So delete it. Let's go to the object mask and brush over everything. So I just have to hit the plus sign, object again. And if it's not working, just use the brush for some parts. I'm not feathering out that much, and I'm clicking here, holding shift and clicking here, boom, straight line. Quick tip, okay? I know it's not that perfect, but again, I'm not gonna use this image, so I'm not gonna work here for a whole day just for one image. But you could do that, of course. I want this mask because I'm gonna use it, so I'm duplicating and invert it. So this mask will stay here. And I need the sky 2 times, you know me, for my gradients, so I'm gonna duplicate it. Yeah, beforehand, why not? Right click on the first background mask, intersect it with a linear gradient. The sun is coming from the left side. My brain is working, dude. So I'm pulling it from left to right, not increasing the exposure, but decreasing it, creating some contrast, okay? Going to this mask here, right click, intersect, linear gradient. You can hold down shift if you want, so you have a straight line. Down the contrast a bit for more haze and hazing it, not dehazing. Clarity just a tiny bit, and up the exposure. And I'm looking at my histogram. I could go full ham. I'm not doing it. I don't want to overexpose anything. Okay, introducing some blues. I love this hue. And now for this building, I know it's a bit dark, but I have my mask. Up the shadows a bit and the whites, and up the texture, before and after. Cool. Quick tip, I could even use the linear gradients on the object to emphasize more contrast instead of using the contrast slider. And for that, we're going to the first mask, duplicating it, okay? And now I'm gonna reset everything that I did. And now, right click on it, intersect this mask, linear gradient. I'm just gonna use the edge here of this building, down the exposure, and now look. It looks so freaking 200D-ish. Right click on it, duplicate, doing the same on the left side, grab the linear gradient, rotate it. I'm creating some sort of a rim light here. Okay, now before and after. That's dope. You know what? I might use this image as a thumbnail for this YouTube video because I have some space on the upper side for an arrow, for whatever. Oh, you know what? Haha, I'm gonna show you something, okay? To get more of a out of this image. I know it's a long one right now, but hey, stay with me, okay? So, you know, orange colors go well with blues. So let's say this spire, I hope it's called spire, is orange. So that means the whole image will pop out more. And since it is the center of this image, it will look so insane. So how should I do that? I can go back to the first mask, right click on it, duplicate it. Now I have to reset everything again, but that's okay. I have time. You know, I'm only getting older. Right click on it, intersect it with a brush. And now I'm brushing over the spire. Now I'm brushing over the spire here as well. How do I introduce some oranges? Easy clap. That's why we have the color tool here, okay? Click on it, search for some oranges. Let's go for some yellow, okay? Upping the highlights and whites just a tiny bit, playing with the saturation. And now if I wanted to make it more pop, I can just play with the amount. Boom, okay, wait, I'm zooming out, playing with the amount, okay. And now, before and after, That's so much better, dude. I'm gonna use it as my thumbnail. I hope I get some views, but if not, it's okay. I hope at least one of you did learn something from here. Even if it's just 10 people instead of 2,000, it's totally fine, okay? On to the next image. Okay, this image I'm gonna crop 16 by 9. Boom. Go through my presets. I'm gonna go with Dream Softly here. It's pretty dark, but don't worry, up the exposure. It's always good to play with the temp. Yeah, that's dope. Desaturate everything. Hey, and there's nothing wrong if you don't want to desaturate the colors every time you edit an image. I'm just here chilling with you guys, editing some photos. That's dope, okay? That's all I want. So let's grab 2 linear gradients on the right side and the left side to create some depth. Grabbing a radial gradient for this lamp here. Bam, up the exposure a bit. And now introducing back some colors. Let's start with some orange tones. Then some blues. And now I'm gonna go to the color grading tool. On my presets, there are some color grading stuff going on. You can always change it. And for here, the midtones I'm gonna leave and the shadows, but I'm gonna pull the highlights not towards blue where it was, as you can see here on the whites. I'm gonna rotate it towards the yellows, and now it looks a bit more filmic. I'm not overdoing it here. Maybe grabbing the midtones towards the blues, increasing the yellows here. Okay, that's dope. And since he's walking, he has a bit of motion. I like that. So before and after, you know what? I'm using one radial gradient to add some glow here. Oh, you know me by now, I love some glow. Okay, that's dope. Before and after again. Okay, on to the next one here. A tram shot, 16 by 9. And I'm gonna use Icy Cyan for this one. Yes, I love the blues on Icy Cyan. Up the exposure. And now I'm gonna mask out the tram or train. It did some kind of a good job. Now I'm just gonna use a brush, even if it looks a bit shitty, but it's okay. If you have more time and you want to use the image for training or for, I don't know, for some content on Instagram, just use it. You don't even have to tag me. It's okay. Use the images. Totally fine. Because if I would have some images from some, even if they're not that good, okay, it would be so dope to have them for free, to just sit on my computer, have some freaking music in my ears and edit and just train, you know, to practice some editing and to shape your editing style and what so. Now right click on it, duplicate and invert it, right click, intersect, linear gradient, pulling down the exposure here. I'm gonna increase the reds here to make these things here pop out even more. So I'm gonna go to the color mixer, saturation, bump it up, play with the hues. Okay, and now one radial gradient to make this window here glow a bit because of the reflection of the sun. Before and after. Next one is a Suzuki, if I'm saying it right in English. I'm gonna crop it 1 by 1. I am masking out those legs here. It should do a pretty good job here. And apply. I'm gonna wait for it to generate. Yeah, perfect. Looking through my presets, classic blues looks dope, but Icy Cyan it is. Exposure up. Highlights a bit down. Now I'm gonna desaturate everything. Now I'm looking at the highlights here. Here's a highlight, and here I am gonna make it a bit glowy. And now I'm just gonna copy this mask here, duplicate it, and place it on top of the other light reflections. You know what? In this case, we all can see the license plate. Let's imagine there is no license plate, okay? Let's use generative AI again. And the license plate is gone. And now I'm gonna introduce back some colors real quick. Some blues, aquas. I'm gonna pull the orange color more to the reddish hues. I'm gonna use another object mask and mask out the car. Right click on it, duplicate and invert it because I need the background. So I'm gonna go to the car, right click on it, intersect linear gradient, make it a bit darker on the right side here. Go to the generative AI real quick. I don't need this handsome fella's face. And he is gone. Who is driving the car? A ghost? Yes, sirski. Quick before and after. I can use a vignette real quick. Linear gradient, down the exposure and invert it. Okay, now before and after. I like this one. On to the next one, a rainbow cloud. And this rainbow cloud, some kind person commented on it on my latest YouTube video. I'm gonna put it down below so you know exactly what it is. I'm not gonna use a preset for this one, so let's crop it. So I'm gonna get rid of the buildings on the right hand side. And I'm gonna try to enhance the rainbow cloud here. Let's desaturate everything and play with the overall contrast here. I'm gonna up the exposure a bit, down the highlights here, up the shadows, and then I'm gonna go to the masks. I'm gonna use an object mask. Let's see if it will do the job. It's not detecting it that well. I don't know what's up with buildings with the object mask. So let's try the sky one, but I know there are some reflections, so the sky mask will not work either. Yeah, I mean, we can use it, hit minus and brush some things out here. Because it's a straight line, I can just hold down shift. I'm just shifting around here. Now I'm right clicking on it, duplicate and invert it. I'm gonna go to the curve, introduce some contrast to the building here. Midtones, highlights up, a highlight roll off, more contrast, midtones up. And let's go to the sky here. I'm gonna intersect it with a linear gradient from the top. And now let's double tap on color mixer, the saturation, to bring back all the colors. Put it towards the teal side. And now I'm just gonna brush over the rainbow cloud and go down to dehaze. Now I'm dehazing it, not hazing it. And now I'm using a color range mask. Let's see what it's picking up. Okay, it's doing a good job, I think. Let's saturate it and bring back some blues here. Saturation, double tap on blues. We can increase some greens and purples, some reds maybe. Because if I'm using a brush or a color range mask, I'm desaturating the blues as well. So the only thing I'm doing here is I'm gonna brush over the rainbow cloud and some parts of the sky. And now I'm just using the texture and it should do the job. Okay, and now back to the building. Right click, duplicate it, reset the tone curve. I'm gonna desaturate the building, making it a bit warmer, add some texture to it, up the highlights a bit, the whites, bring back the shadows. Before and after, I'm gonna play with the blue hues real quick. Color mixer, hue, blues more towards the teal side. And before and after, perfect. Okay, this shot is so cool. I'm gonna use a 1:1 aspect ratio here. Grab the ruler out, draw a straight line, boom. I'm not gonna use a preset here. Grabbing a color range mask. If I'm gonna use the select sky mask again, it's not gonna do a great job. So because it is a really saturated blue sky, I know I can just grab the color range mask and it will do the job, as you can see. I can refine it a bit. I'm gonna duplicate it because I need it 2 times. Sun is coming from the left side, so on the right side, I'm gonna enhance the sky and make it brighter. Close the curves, dehaze down. Oh, you can see an edge here. Let's see, refine. Okay, that's better. I'm gonna make the sky darker, down with the exposure, go to the refine, play with it again because of these edges, as you can see. Introducing some blues back and some yellows in the building because of the sun, but I'm going to the hues and I'm gonna push it towards the orange tones. And now I'm gonna go to the color grading, and for the highlights, I'm gonna add a tad of orange as well. Before and after. And for this last shot, let's say I only have 5 steps, okay? First step out of the way with the crop, 1:1, something like that. Second step, let's choose a preset, filmic blues or classic blues. Let's do filmic blues, okay? Now I only have 3 steps left. Let me say up the exposure. Second, 2 steps left, so radial gradient. Oh my god. Okay, I know I have to use invert and exposure down. Let's just say radial gradient was 1 step, okay? And now, last step, the yellows needs to be pushed. Okay, color mixer, saturation and yellow. Yes, sir. Before and after. Dope. If I had one step left, I would do that. Hit color range mask, mask out the yellows and invert it. And now introduce some blues. That makes such a difference. Oh my god. Before and after. Dope. Let's go. I hope you had some fun editing together with me. Let me know if you want an in-depth tutorial for some specific techniques. Stay safe out there and I'll see you in the next one.